What's going on, everybody? Curtis Wilkerson with HawgSports.com coming to you just outside Barnhill Arena, where the Razorbacks just wrapped up the annual red-white game, that preseason scrimmage that kind of signifies the beginning of basketball season. It's near, it's arrived. Everybody's been really excited about this team. For what it's worth, red beat white today, 64-59. Obviously, they kind of mix and match the teams a little bit. They played 4 quarters today instead of 2 halves, 8-minute quarters, mixed in some 24-second shot clock. This is more about the atmosphere and the environment, which I thought was awesome today. It's fall break on campus, so you didn't know what it was going to be like in terms of the crowd, the energy. I thought they did a really nice job. Over 5,100 people announced. That's really good. So kudos to the Razorback fans for coming out on this Sunday and enjoying a little basketball. And it was the first glimpse, unless people were, lucky enough to get out to Europe and watch them play on that foreign tour, to see this group live and in person. We don't need to talk about too much of the happenings of the game because, again, it's an inter-squad scrimmage. Who cares, right? But we do want to talk about some players and some of the things that we saw today. What better place to start than Jalen Graham? I mean, come on now. If anybody was in there and watched him, quite a surprising and dominant performance from Graham. He was cooking all day inside the paint. He's got some elite level footwork, soft touch off the glass. This is kind of what we thought, Arkansas might be getting to a degree when he came over from Arizona State. This is an all Pac-12 performer. He's an upperclassman. You expect a lot. You think he's going to help fill that void with Jalen Williams leaving that Arkansas has in the post. And we hadn't really seen that. In the practices that we've attended, he's been a little bit uneven. Didn't play much at Europe. Maybe he was still getting his feet underneath him, but he played a heck of a game today. I've got the box score in front of me. Let's see, Mr. Graham, 10 of 11 from the field, 25 points on the game. He didn't miss a shot in the first half. He only missed 1 shot the entire game. Was a little slow there from the free throw line, but he started to find a rhythm. That's one thing you need to watch with him. He's about a 50 to 60% free throw shooter over the course of his career, but he found a little bit of rhythm there. But I tell you what, you give it to him in the high post on the low block and let him go to work, he's going to get you a bucket or he's going to draw a foul. I thought he looked really good. He played physically, had some really impressive blocked shots in transition, just kind of chasing guys down or coming over from the weak side, blocking it off the backboard. For this Arkansas team, one of the question marks here as we get into exhibition play and close to the regular season is what are they going to do at that center spot? Jalen Graham is a guy that maybe is emerging a little bit from the dogfight there. So really good to see that from him. Like I said, a dominant performance. He was impressive. If he can be close to that guy throughout the course of the season, I think the Hogs are really in business. He's one, Arkansas hasn't had that type of post player under Muss that you can just throw the ball into and let him go to work and he can get you a bucket. I think Graham could be that guy. Really impressive from the Arizona State transfer today. Sticking to the big men, the Twins can play, man. I thought both of those guys looked pretty good in there. They're still thinking a little bit too much. I think, maybe a half step slow on some defensive rotations and things like that. So, just getting a little bit more comfortable, as they progress here. Again, these guys have only been on campus since May, but they're skilled. It was really impressed with Makai. I thought he took flight on a couple dunks there. He moves well. He's switchable defensively. Mikal, he's known as more of that bruiser type, the guy that's going to get physical with you underneath, dominate the boards, block shots. But he knocked down a couple elbow jumpers, and that's a part of his game that he showed at times at Rhode Island. It wasn't necessarily consistent, but if he can give that to you at Arkansas, that's a good thing. So I think you have some things to work with there with those 3 guys that we didn't see that much of in Europe for whatever reason. Trevin Brazile was so good for Arkansas. I still think he's better at that power forward spot if you can utilize him there. But he started slow today. I think he wound up there with 13 and 5. He turned it on. He had a couple big dunks. One on an alley-oop, one that he really threw down hard in traffic in the beginning of the 4th quarter. The dude can fly. He's 6'10". He's got a 7'3" wingspan or whatever. He can go. He knocked down a corner 3, which Arkansas desperately needs. We'll talk about that in a minute. So pretty good game from Brazile. Like I said, he turned it on late. Kamani Johnson was kind of the darling of the team in Europe, but he struggled a little bit today. He played 26 minutes and had 7 fouls, and that's something with him that we've noticed in the past. He's so physical and aggressive, but he's got to be able to harness that a little bit better. So an interesting battle there with those 5 bigs going on at Arkansas. The good thing is I think this is a good problem to have. It's not a lack of options or a lack of talent. They've got some players, and so once these guys kind of figure it out and settle it in, it's going to be really interesting to see how it shakes out there in the paint. Jalen Graham the star of the day. To get to the backcourt, Nick Smith, he had 22 points today. It was on 7 of 20 shooting, a little bit uneven. I thought the length of Anthony Black, Ricky Council at times maybe bothered him a little bit on his drives, but he did a really good job of being relentless, kind of getting into the bodies and drawing some contact, getting to the free throw line. Then he really started getting it going a little bit late. He knocked down a couple threes for Arkansas. They're going to need him to do that on a consistent basis. He's your guy. He's going to have the ball in his hands, down the stretch of the shot clock, late in games. When you need a bucket, you can go to him. He's going to get you a quality shot off. Good job by Nick Smith today. Anthony Black, what an interesting stat line, but I think it goes to show how unique of a player he really is. Right? He didn't make a shot from the field. I think he was 0 of 3 from the field. I think maybe made 4 free throws. So you're like, oh, well, he didn't score that much. But he's a point guard, and he's a 6'8" point guard. So what did he do? He went out and got you 9 assists, 9 rebounds, and he blocked 3 shots from the lead guard position. He's a unicorn, man. This is the kind of things that he can do that other guys at his position can't do, and the scoring's going to come. I thought he was aggressive on the drive, did a good job of playing above the basket, and he didn't shy away from contact, something that maybe he did a little bit overseas in Europe when he was on the ball off the bounce. But man, he's just got great floor vision. He sees things and can make passes that other guys just simply can't. Really, really fascinating player to watch. There's a reason why he's a projected lottery pick. Ricky Council, the 6'6" transfer out of Wichita State, he's so athletic. A little bit inconsistent. There were times there where he'd get a little bit careless, maybe forced a shot or two, whatever. Right? It's an inter-squad scrimmage. But man, he also had some wow moments and some plays that really popped. When he gets a little ticked off, you can kind of tell he starts to play with an edge, and he really attacks aggressively and powerfully off the bounce, and he's explosive getting downhill to the rim. When you get that from him, that's when you're really in business with Ricky Council. So getting that out of him consistently is going to be key, because he's going to be a big part of what the Razorbacks are trying to do this season. Jordan Walsh, started off good, had a nice reverse layup. I thought he was really competing on the glass, following his own shot, mixing it up in there. He's playing kind of a small ball power forward there at times. Was quiet the rest of the game, so more consistency from him. Whatever, right? He's a true freshman. Do need him. I think he's a guy that could help Arkansas by knocking down some three-pointers. So finding some consistency there. I thought he had a couple rhythm looks that didn't go for him. They look good. It's one thing to look good and one thing to go down. I think they're going to start going down for him. I like the way that shot looks. I really do with Jordan Walsh. Barry Dunning, another guy that really, I think, surprised people in Europe with how consistent he played, how far along he was. He's just the consummate team player. He really defends, he competes. He was challenging guys at the rim and blocking shots of some of the big men, guys who are taller and maybe bigger and more physical than he is. I was impressed. I think it's a good thing to see from a guy who's going to play the small forward, maybe a little small ball power forward position from you. He's a great basket cutter. I thought he had a couple really nice, well-timed basket cuts that he got buckets out of. You're wondering, as good as Aldis Toney was with that last year, where are you going to get that from this season? Barry Dunning might be that guy for the Razorbacks. And then shout out to Joseph Pinion, the freshman guard out of Morrilton. We didn't see too much of him, again, overseas in Europe. But I thought he played really well today. He had 12 points, knocked down a couple threes, and he's a guy that can space the floor for Arkansas if you can get him out there. But he competed. He had a dunk. Shout out to Pinion for getting the dunk. And he was mixing it up inside there. He had a couple putbacks, where he laid it up off the glass. 12 points. I think he had several rebounds in there. So it's good to see him compete. As he progresses defensively, maybe he can mold into somebody that can help the Razorbacks. In terms of what he brings to the table as a perimeter shooter. Arkansas doesn't have a lot of those this season. As a team, I think the good that really stood out to me is, obviously Jalen Graham, but I think you're starting to see, maybe signs of life from these big guys. You wondered because we just didn't really see many of them, or we didn't see them for consistent minutes when the team was in Spain and Italy outside of Brazil and Kamani Johnson. But I think if you were in there and you watched that red-white game today, you walk out feeling pretty good about all your options, whoever winds up emerging from the pack, whether it be Jalen Graham, Makai Mitchell, Makel Mitchell. Those guys can play. I think they can compete at the SEC level and really help the Razorbacks. And that changes everything for this team. If you know that you can have a consistent rotation out of that center spot and you can slide Brazil to that power forward, then you really have that type of length and athleticism that you see of national championship type of teams. And I think Arkansas is going to be able to do that if these guys continue to stay bought in and progress, and I think they will. Also the good, Improvements in the assist to turnover column. You know, Arkansas averaged over 20 turnovers per game overseas. They had 30 in that last game. Both teams had 14 assists, 9 turnovers today. Anthony Black told us after the game that the team goal was to stay at 9 or below for turnovers, so they accomplished that goal today. They did that without Devo Davis, who was out today nursing a minor knee injury, precautionary. Eric Musselman said he's been getting his workouts in, things like that, just didn't play in this game. But he's your most experienced ball handler and guard back there in the backcourt. So you had a lot of freshmen handling the ball, kind of running the show. Their first time, you know, it's not a real game, but it's the first time playing in front of 5,000 Razorback fans. So, you know, I thought they did a good job of handling the emotion, you know, whatever jitters they had, getting it out of their system. And they really played well there. 14 assists, 9 turnovers for each team. That's progress. Needs to get a little bit better, and I think that it will. And Eric Musselman kind of echoed that sentiment. He thinks they're going to be a really good defensive team too. I would agree. They're so long and athletic and versatile at different positions. I think defense, once again, is going to be the calling card for the Razorbacks. The bad three-point shooting. Look, wasn't good in Europe. It wasn't good last year. You know, what we've been hearing is that it hasn't been great in practice. And the two teams combined to shoot 7 of 31 today from 3. We asked Eric Musselman about it after the game, and he said, hey, it's probably not going to change. And the sample size is building up to where you can start to draw some conclusions, right? So the key for these guys is going to be able to get quality, open looks, know when to take them, and knock them down when you get the opportunity. I've said it, you know, since the beginning of the season, or the summer when this roster was put together. I do think that Arkansas can improve their percentage if they focus on their shot quality. Maybe it's a lower volume, higher percentage type of deal. I think they can do that, and they're just going to need a couple guys to emerge and start knocking down shots for them. It's in the preseason, it's early. We'll see what happens throughout the course of the year. I do think we're going to learn a lot about the Razorbacks over the course of the next couple of weeks here with these exhibitions before they get into the regular season. It's on November 7th. I mean, we're 22 days away here, about 3 weeks away from things getting real. And this team's still got some work to do. 11 newcomers. They're so young. It's the youngest team Eric Musselman has ever coached. So how much progress are they going to make from now to opening night? Because they made quite a bit, I think, from when we saw them in Europe to when we saw them today at the red-white game. That's a positive. How much more progress are they going to make between then and now? It'll be interesting to see. You got Rogers State coming in. It's a Division II school. Arkansas almost lost to a Division II school in an exhibition last year, but that's on Monday, the 24th of October. And then they go to Texas on Saturday, October 29th. That's going to be a very interesting game to watch. Texas is a team that's older, a veteran group. They're tough, gritty, kind of that Chris Beard style of team. I think they're going to push Arkansas. I think it's a great challenge for them to go on the road, play an older, experienced team that's got some continuity together. They've got a lot of returners on that roster as well. I think that's where we'll really start to learn a lot about these Hogs because, man, they have 3 games, and nothing is a given, but, you know, 3 non-conference games against mid-majors, and then you go out to Maui and it gets real for 3 games in a row that week of Thanksgiving, so they got to be ready to go. Overall, an exciting day. You know, SEC Media Days, by the way, that's on Wednesday down in Birmingham, Alabama. I'll be there. All right, so we'll get some feedback from that. It'll be really interesting to see, you know, just what the vibe is with the coaches around the league, the other players in there, what people are thinking about Arkansas, what they're saying about Arkansas. I'm really anxious to see. Obviously, Eric Musselman will be there. We'll get to interview him. Devo Davis and Kamani Johnson, the 2 returners, are representing Arkansas as well. So that's exciting. Another tidbit from today, Arkansas had a big-time visitor on campus in the building for the red-white game. 5-star forward out of the 2023 class, Ron Holland, okay? Teammates with Anthony Black at Duncanville, teammates with Jordan Walsh on the AAU circuit. This is a primary target for the Razorbacks. They had him on campus for an official visit in June, had him back this weekend. He got in town Saturday. Him and his family were in for the red-white game. You could tell they had a really good time. I think the Arkansas fans, the coaches, and the players did a really good job of making it kind of feel like a home atmosphere, making them feel wanted. That's what you have to do when you get these opportunities on the visit because it's getting close to decision time for them at this point. They've made a second round of visits to the contenders. I think it's Arkansas in a really good spot after this weekend. Keep an eye on Texas there on the periphery. G League's also an option. UCLA, Kentucky, maybe a little bit further back there, but one to keep an eye on. Ron Holland out of that 2023 class. I think that's about it. It's been a great day at Barnhill Arena. Really enjoyed it. Going to go back home, rest for a day. The AP Top 25 poll comes out tomorrow. Let's see where the Razorbacks are ranked. Are they going to be in the top 10? I think they might. and then I'll catch you guys from Birmingham, Alabama for SEC Media Days on Wednesday. Again, it's been Curtis Wilkerson with HawgSports. Appreciate you joining me. We'll talk to you next time.